Uncle Jake received his physical for the Navy on January the 29th, 1942. He then went to boot camp on August the 3rd, 1942. He reported for boot camp in what I assume was the Naval Station Great Lakes near North Chicago in Lake County, Illinois. I don't have any specific documentation that states this is where he went to boot camp, but as this was the most common place for new recruits to go through boot camp, I'm assuming that it was Naval Station Great Lakes, and as you can see from the photos, it was obviously somewhere up north based on the amount of snow that is on the ground. So we are going to go with that. He, according to a handwritten note left by one of his sisters, my great aunt, he shipped across on April the 10th, 1943. According also to this handwritten note, Uncle Jake received the Purple Heart at Licata, Sicily on July the 11th, 1943 in the Sicilian invasion. We do have the Purple Heart, but I do not have it at this time to show. But if at some later date it becomes available, I will provide a photo of the Purple Heart. But that was evidently some of the first action that Uncle Jake saw was in the invasion at Sicily. However, there are also some indications that he was involved in the North African campaign. As you can see in these photos are a couple of postcards that Uncle Jake sent to his sister, my great aunt, one from Tripoli and one from a city in Algeria. Another function that the LST-348 served was that of a rescue ship. During the Anzio campaign in January 1944, an Allied cruiser, the HMS Spartan, was attacked by a glide bomber from the Germans, and all of her crew was forced to abandon ship. After several attempts by other vessels, including the LCI-L-15, to rescue the survivors, Barbara Brooks Tomblin, in her book With Utmost Spirit, describes the event this way. By this time, rescue operations had expanded to include other craft. Ensign Lloyd E. Dutcher's LCI-198 took 6 men off a life raft and saved 4 more men in the water by throwing them life rings. LST-348 rescued another 23 survivors, and rubber boats from LCI-L-236 picked up a number of other men. Ben Doria, on board the Coast Guard LST-326, recalled that his ship, quote, picked up many survivors, unquote. Then, after repeated efforts by tugs using fire hoses failed to extinguish the fires, at 19:05, Spartan capsized and sank. Quote, "It was a ghastly sight to see, a terrible sight," Doria said, and he asked, "If this cruiser couldn't protect us or herself, could we?" Unquote. Okay, well, we haven't gotten a whole lot more done, but I thought what I would do in this little segment is just show what we have gotten done, and then kind of go through what I guess I would call the anatomy of the deck. There was a lot of these things that I didn't know what they were, and so I did a little bit of research and thought it would be interesting just to go through some of these things. And so, starting at the front here, these little details, these are called bits, and they were basically just posts that were for fastening mooring lines and cables. And so you have the bits there. Again, talked about the winch here. This would have most likely been for the anchor, for hauling in the anchor. Then we go here on this particular model. What we have here is a ramp, which would allow access to some of the lower decks. Some of the LSTs had an elevator here rather than a ramp, but this particular kit, all of the LSTs I've seen of this kit have the ramp here. So that is what that is. And then these little details here, these are intakes, and so you can see that all up and down the deck it's got these intakes throughout. Then these pipes sticking up, these are exhaust pipes, exhaust vents. Of course, you've got an anchor here, the hatches here. Then moving on further down the deck just a little bit, these particular some more vents here, and these are actually called gooseneck vents. And if I turn it just a little bit, you can see maybe that it does kind of have that J shape like you normally associate with a gooseneck, and so those are the gooseneck vents. And so those are just some of the little details I thought were interesting on the deck. It was a learning experience for me, so I thought I would just share that. And then as far as what we have gotten done, we had some more moving from the kind of the back half of the deck here. We added on some more of the intakes. We had 5 more exhausts that were added. We have these gooseneck vents that were added, 6 of those. Then we have a couple of bits up here on the end here, and that's pretty much it for this particular update. So we'll carry on and then catch you up in the next update. Okay, so here we can see that we've gotten a little bit more done on the stern portion of the deck. We got the stern anchor winch in place and painted. Also, we've got these reels of again, these would be cable reels here. We've got this little, I'm not sure what you would call this, a cabin area maybe here. Pictures that I've seen actually place this a little further back on the deck, or a little further forward, I guess you would say. But this is where this kit called for it to go. We've got another gooseneck vent here, and then I'll just tip it up so you can see some of the paint detail that we've done. And so there's that part of it, and then I will zoom out some, because we have also gotten the superstructure assembled. So it will sit here. We may need to turn it here. There we go. There is the superstructure. stairways. I weathered just a little bit. And then on this particular part, tilt it down some. There will be a gun that sits here. And then four more, one there, 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 and there. So that will complete the assembly of the superstructure once we get all of those on. So that is where we are at this particular point in the assembly. Once all of this is in place, probably first part of next week, then we will, there are a few other parts that need to be placed on the this part. There is a spare anchor and a spare propeller that will be mounted there. There is a bar and the stern anchor will go there. And then after that, we'll probably begin weathering the deck, weathering the entire deck. I have some ideas about how to do that. And then we will begin putting up the railing around the outside of the deck.